Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to this wonderful, interesting place here. I was impressed here. I was walking around the other day in this redeveloped harbor, what I found out, with even live dockyards and so on, and this silo hotel and this museum that we would later host. Today host this event, so quite interesting place here. And I'd like to share with you a few thoughts on what global citizenship means today and as an ideal and principle behind the work that we do. We work to connect individuals seeking personal freedom and security with countries seeking economic freedom and security, in a kind of mutually beneficial relationship. Our clients are global citizens, unconstrained by the limits which were imposed on them by something as arbitrary as the place of birth or the passport citizenship they were born with. You see, citizenship is actually one of the most arbitrary thing, and the thing somewhat of feudal times. It's one of the few things, except you also have this still in inheritance law, where it's simply a matter of one going to the other based on where you are born or who you're born with. So your passport, your citizenship determines a lot in your life. Actually, really much more than we normally realize. And as leaders of this investment migration industry, as we call this today, we are first-hand witnesses to the transformative effect that increased travel freedom and access can have on the lives of our clients. We see how global opportunities really increase. They are opened by these means, and it dissolves barriers and connects people and connects countries. We see that what these freedoms mean for our clients, and we also have a profound insight into what it means to not have these freedoms. We know this because of the work that we do, but it is also an inevitable result of living as a global citizen in an increasingly interconnected world. I think all of us today, when we open the news in the morning, when we look at social media, with the people we interact, we could really realize that particularly over the last 20 years, the technology, the travel, all these things that have really swiped the way we live, or at least the kind of people that are in this room live, has really changed the way we look at things, and we see much further than just the next door. We now are concerned with everything around the world quite easily. Globalization has so many effects, and one of them is really that it is no longer possible for any one of us, at least in this context here, to close our eyes to the desperate hardships of other people in other places, even very far away places. We see what war does to a country. We see what famine does to a city, what terror and displacement means to entire populations. Previous generations might have been able to claim ignorance of these problems, but the dissolving of physical and imaginative borders and boundaries has transformed our awareness of how other people live and how they actually suffer on this shared planet. More awareness as global citizens means more empathy and a greater sense of obligation. At Henley Partners, we take these responsibilities and obligations very seriously. And it is for this reason that we focus our philanthropic commitment, that we commit our responsibilities and obligations, with those who have not the same choices that we have and not the same opportunities like our clients, but on the very contrary, are actually forced to move. Over the years, we have worked to provide meaningful and sustained support to refugees and displaced people. I speak for all of us when I say that we are extremely proud of the contributions we have made. My own recent visit to the Zaatari refugee camp, you just mentioned, was quite impressive. It was not such a remote experience like you had, I have to say. It was actually fairly well organized, and I was quite impressed by the UNHCR's work and organization. But of course, Jordan is of course a totally different situation than South Sudan. So I'd really think if I go there where you just mentioned to us, I would have a quite different impression that I took from Zaatari camp. But Zaatari camp itself really opened my eyes further to really the extent of these problems that we have today, and made it clear that this is, you know, one of the most pressing issues of our time. So if you look at all these things, a highlight of our year is actually the Global Citizens Award, and you have some information around here in the room. The Global Citizens Award is something where we honor an individual who has demonstrated vision, courage, commitment, and dedication in improving our global community. The awards also reflect our commitment to the refugee cause, and we believe that this is where we can do the most good, both through our financial contributions that we make and our clients make sometimes, and the partnerships the partnerships that we create, and our understanding of the global migration industry, the global migration issues, due to our unique position that we have as a firm. You see, we basically are working in a very particular spot in the entire migration spectrum. Of course, on the far end, if you like, of, I would say, high-end migration, but exactly with those clients that we work with also, we find there's a lot of awareness of these people, because these are all really globally operating individuals that see far beyond their borders. And this is very inspiring, actually. And this is where we see, working in migration, we see all the other facets of that, all the way to indeed forced migration, which is something that touches us very often and very deeply, particularly when you see what's going on and when you look at this a little bit closer, just like what you said before. When you actually start looking at that, it is quite horrific. So, with the first laureate, and we have here also some information, I'd encourage you to maybe read about that a little bit more. The first laureate was Harald Höppner, the founder of refugee aid project Sea-Watch, who has saved many thousands of lives in the Mediterranean. We then have also honored Dr. Imtiaz Soliman, who is actually from South Africa, I understand, who is the founder of the Gift of the Givers Foundation, which is Africa's largest disaster relief organization. And Monique Morrow, the president and co-founder of the Humanized Internet, which works to support the 1.1 billion people worldwide who actually lack an official identity. I think there's probably very few people in the room that can understand what it means to not have an official identity. Quite amazing if you have seen the effects of this. All of us are born with, I think all of us here in the room were probably born with a passport, with birth certificates, and with identity card, or at least some form of identity. But if you have none, it is a rather different life. And then 2 weeks ago, to mention, I just come from Dubai. We had a large event there that we do annually, and we were able to do another event, a gala dinner for this Global Citizen Award, and where we were delighted to be able to present the 2018 Global Citizen Award to Diep Wong, the founder of the Pacific Links Foundation, in recognition of her tireless advocacy on behalf of those enslaved by human trafficking. A massive problem, and a problem that is actually increasing, particularly in Southeast Asia. Like the previous laureates, Wong inspired us with her willingness to act in confronting a problem that many see as simply too vast to address. Many just don't want to even talk about human trafficking. Not satisfied with condemning an affront and affront is actually the right word, to dignity and justice. Wong and also these other laureates they found themselves really compelled to act. And this is really what we recognize in these laureates that receive our award. We can look to all of them as the embodiment of what it means to be a global citizen in the most meaningful sense. And I hope that all of us will continue to be inspired by their examples. We are here this evening to celebrate another organization which is making an extraordinary intervention on behalf of displaced people, this time in Cape Town. On behalf of all of us at Henley Partners, I'm very pleased to reaffirm our ongoing commitment to the remarkable global citizens and organizations that are fighting every day to make this difference. Thank you so much.